Can I tell you about one of the biggest myths that I believed as a coach? I genuinely thought that if I became a better coach, I'd be able to coach anyone. And we get told this in our coach training as well, right? Everyone is coachable. So we think that we can coach anyone. And the more that we coach, the better a coach that we'll become, right? Better questions, better listening, better presence, better challenge even. And then we focus on getting better results. And for a long time, that was absolutely true until I started working with people experiencing burnout. And that's when something strange happened. Because the better my coaching became, the less effective it sometimes felt. And not all of the time, but often enough that I couldn't ignore it. Now, have you ever had that experience, right? You've used every coaching skill you've got. You've listened deeply. You've held the space. You've challenged gently. You've created insight. And somehow your client is still not moving. And if you've experienced that, I don't think you're becoming a worse coach. I think you've reached the edge of what traditional coach training prepares us for as coaches. And today I want to explain why. But first, I want to make it clear that I didn't set out to coach burnout or become a burnout coach. You may be here too, right? But the more that I shared my personal story and experience about my first burnout that made me seriously ill, and the second that nearly killed me, the more clients I was attracting that were experiencing the same thing. And the more clients at burnout I was attracting, the more I realized there was a gap in my skills and training for clients at burnout. And so I began to study and I began to join the dots, and I couldn't find what I needed. So eventually I created it. Now, if we have never met before, I'm Kelly Swingler. I'm the burnoutologist and creator of Burnoutology, founder of the Burnout Academy. And for over 12 years, I have been researching burnout. I've coached over 700 leaders through it, and I'm asking a question that completely changed my work. What happens when excellent coaching meets a person with a nervous system that is in survival? Because I don't think coach training has got this wrong, but I do believe, and I know I've seen it, I do believe that it's incomplete. And those are two very different things. Now, I can remember sitting in supervision years ago, right? I was talking about a client who simply just wasn't progressing. And I tried everything that I knew. I'd gone through different models. I had tried different questions. I had tried different approaches, and still nothing shifted. And I remember saying to my supervisor, right, I don't know what else to do. But looking back, that sentence wasn't really true, because there wasn't nothing else to do. But there was something else to understand. I didn't need another coaching model. I didn't need more coach training, but I needed a different understanding of burnout. And that was the missing piece of the puzzle for me. Now, I want to be really careful here. This isn't a criticism of coach training, right? I train coaches myself. But traditional coaching, right, can give us extraordinary skills. It can give us the listening, the presence, the curiosity, the ability to hold space and challenge. It gives us ethics and morals and contracting. It teaches us in accountability, and they are all essential. All of those things still matter if a client shows up in the room with burnout. The problem isn't the skills, but the problem is the assumptions that sit underneath those skills, because most coaching models assume something that usually goes unnoticed, and they assume that your client has enough neurological capacity to engage fully with coaching. Now, usually that's completely and utterly true, but burnout changes the conditions, right? Imagine teaching somebody to swim. Right? Your teaching is excellent. Your technique is fabulous, right? Your feedback is wonderful. But you've accidentally put them in the deep end before they've learned to float. The swimming isn't the problem, but the timing is. And that's what burnout changed for me. Not what I did, but when I did it. Think about the kinds of questions we ask, right? What do you want? What are your options? What's the next step? What's getting in the way? Beautiful coaching questions, right? You'd pass an assessment if you were asking those under supervision, right? but they all require something, and that something is capacity. They require access to imagination, working memory, decision making, future thinking, emotional regulation, flexible thinking, exactly the things that burnout can temporarily reduce. So when a client struggles to answer, it's so tempting to think, right, well, they just don't know. Sometimes their brain simply can't access the answer yet. And that's a very different interpretation. So what changed in my coaching, right? Well, I didn't stop coaching, but I did change my sequence. I stopped assuming that strategy came first. Instead, I got really curious about state. What's happening in the client's brain and body? What's happening in their brain and body today, right now in this session? Then safety. Does this nervous system feel safe enough to explore? Only then exploring self, right? Helping someone reconnect with who they are beneath the coaching strategies, and then strategy, right? Notice I'm still coaching. I'm just coaching in an order that matches the biology instead of ignoring it. Now, here's something I really want to say, right? This isn't about becoming a burnout coach. It is, though, about becoming a better coach, because once you understand how burnout affects thinking and decision making and behavior and capacity, you'll never look at hesitation from a client in the same way again. You'll never look at brain fog the same way again. You'll never assume that every client who isn't taking action lacks commitment. Burnout doesn't invalidate coaching, but it tells us when coaching needs to adapt. So the next time that your coaching suddenly feels like it isn't working, right, don't immediately learn or assume that you need another coaching model. Instead, ask yourself one thing. Am I coaching someone's potential, their future potential, or their current capacity? Then I want you to ask, right, what assumptions am I making about this client's ability to think, decide, and act? And then answer, am I trying to coach strategy before I've understood state? And those three questions have probably changed my coaching more than any qualification that I have ever completed. Now, one of the things I hear most often from coaches is, I knew something wasn't quite right. Right, I couldn't explain it. Right, they had a niggle. Now, if that's you, I want you to trust that feeling. Right, you're noticing something important. Now, one of the reasons I created my burnout assessment is to help coaches just like you put language around what you're already observing in session, and not so you can diagnose burnout. We're not here as coaches to diagnose it, but so you can make more informed coaching decisions. Now, if you'd like to explore it, it takes less than 3 minutes. You'll find the link in the description below. But if you remember nothing else from today's short video, I want you to remember this. When great coaching suddenly isn't enough, the answer isn't always better coaching. Sometimes it's a better understanding of the person that you're coaching. For me, burnout wasn't the thing that changed coaching, but it did reveal the assumptions that coaching had been making. And once I saw that, I couldn't unsee it. Now, I'd love to know, so please drop your comments below, but I want to know, have you ever had a client who made you question your whole coaching ability? Only to realise later that it wasn't your coaching that needed to change first. It was your understanding of what was happening for your client. Because I genuinely believe that the future of coaching isn't about asking more powerful questions. It's about knowing when the brain and nervous system of the client in front of you are ready to answer them. If you have found this helpful, please do give it a like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.